Hey everyone, I'm Chris Wall, the executive producer and showrunner of the Wingfeather Saga animated series. Welcome to the Wingfeather podcast. I'm your host, and we're going to take time over the next weeks and months and maybe longer to take you behind the curtain, to show you not only how this show has come to life, as well as the books themselves, and why people do it. What's the motivation for people to want to be a part of this fantasy story in Nashville, Tennessee of an animated series? And I think you're going to find it really compelling. There's some really great stories of individual artists and people that you may not be aware of are helping to make the things that entertain our families so much. And it's my pleasure to be your host, to take you through this and help you to experience what I get to experience daily in working with some of these amazing people. So today we're going to start it off at the beginning, and we're so excited to have our very special guest, Andrew Peterson, author of the novels as well as executive producer on the series. So let's welcome Andrew. Andrew, so good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Do you remember when we met?
Well, my memory of that season in my life, we just did a couple weeks ago, the Far Country anniversary show. So this album, The Far Country, came out 20 years ago, and it was my fourth album, I think, but I had been dropped from my record label. I was crestfallen. It was really sad, but I was literally standing outside of a studio where we were already making a record. And so I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. I just went straight back and started making music. So I say that to say that he also said, hey, and I heard you were talking about trying to write a fantasy novel. In the same phone call, said, I have a friend who's an agent, and can I connect you with the agent? So it was kind of they were throwing me a bone. He was trying to give me some good news and bad news, but I was a bone that I needed. So I just was like, yeah, sure. So he connected me with this guy, Don Pape. And so this whole season that you're talking about, when we met, I did not know what my life was going to be like. You get a record deal and you think everything's going to work out great, and then it doesn't. So Randall and I were we released The Far Country totally independently, had to call some friends to lend me the money to help me actually pay the studio guys to do the thing. And then Good Game and I were both independent artists. We went to church together and we're like, hey, I bet for $5,000 we could make a kid's CD of all these goofy songs. And then meanwhile, I was working on book 1 of the Wingfeather Saga blindly, thinking, I wonder if this could maybe turn into a story one day and get published. I don't know. And then that was the season we were in, when Chris is like, hey, do you guys want to do a silly song for VeggieTales? And it was just like, well, yes.
That's so fascinating. So even a year prior, otherwise I'm sorry, I'm on a label. I can't, I'm in the middle of
maybe.
things. I don't,
it's possible,
maybe, right?
It's possible, but I might've been just too busy to do it. I mean, I was pretty geeked out to get a chance, but it was, I mainly think of it as like a blessing. It was just like, we were kind of desperate to know. And that's the nice thing about it, is that who knew that you calling me to do that would eventually lead to us sitting here. That's God's goodness. But yeah, so that was the season we were in, and we met, and I think I had by that time just book 1 and maybe just come out or something.
Yeah, 2008. It was it had been published or was about to be published, and we had, I think, done 1 or 2 songs. Well, because we'd done the Wizard song at that point for Monkey, and so I knew, we're gonna write some more songs with this guy. So I probably should read the book. And so I had David and Grace then were little. Yeah, so they would have been, 8 and 6. And hey, we're going to read this book from Mr. Peterson, and had a blast with it. We were like, oh man, that was super fun. And that became kind of a family thing as you got to the next books, and we got to read along the whole journey. So it's interesting to join in that process and be just a fan, and simultaneously, of course, Veggie going through all of its highs and lows of getting bought and sold and going to different things. And until 2014, then the Warden and Wolf King, and you kickstarted it. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at what he's doing, the momentum behind it.
Because guess what? I got dropped from my publishing deal as well. Not dropped, but they didn't renew it. So yeah, I remember it was after 2014 that I called you, and the part of the thing was I had kind of a revelation that TV might be a better way to tell a long story than a film.
Yeah.
And I had watched a few series that I just thought were amazing. And I thought from an artistic standpoint, getting to know characters and follow sidelines and that kind of thing if done right, was a really powerful way to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
And then my kids watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know, it starts off kind of like, what is this show exactly? And by the end, it's just amazing. And so the kids, it was on in the house, I think, and my kids were into it. They were the right age for it. And I was kind of passively watching it. And then I rewatched the whole thing during COVID. I don't know if I ever told you this, but like I rewatched it and I was like, oh my goodness, I love this show. Anyway, but that was the kind of like when the light bulb went on, because I've always loved animation. And like when I was a kid, growing up in Florida, you know, I kind of dreamed of going into animation, working for Disney or doing something like that, or drawing comic books. So I was always attracted to that kind of thing. And then watching stuff with my kids was really fun.
So in those years, I had my arms full of veggies, and you would ask me about Wingfeather from time to time, and I was just kind of like, loaded up here, carrying this thing along. And in 2015, then, so I'd finished my veggie time and spent that time just kind of in prayer. Spent about 3 weeks with my family camping, and we were doing a bunch of stuff. And then I was like, Heather and I both felt like this is the thing to go pursue. Let's go figure this out.
It's amazing.
Off we went. And you and I took a walk on the property near your place and talked about what would it look like if we did something. Just kind of even that is such an interesting way to approach this, because often producers like myself will just go and option the material, right? Here's some money, I'm going to option your material and I'll go do something and you just stay over here. Instead, it was, what if we formed Shining Isle Productions, right? So then the question was, I think for me, it was would the audience be into animation? You were, I was. That's the place I'd spent most of my career now. And you were like, what if we did a Kickstarter? Because you had such success with Warden.
Right.
It was like, I bet we could do that. And I was like, oh, Kickstarters, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can we hit that well again? You just did it the year prior. But we, set it all up and did it. And it was incredibly successful. Like the audience just showed up in droves. And that was like
an
amazing.
Have always been amazing. Yeah.
And totally into the animation. That was Tom Owens, of course, had joined us then.
Yep. And at that point, me being the naive person that I am, I still thought it was going to be easy. I was kind of like, okay, cool, we got this money. And it wasn't very much money in the scheme of things. By the time we paid the rewards and kind of did the thing we were going to do, you had to then cobble together a team of people to make this short film that we were then going to use to go to Netflix or Amazon and then that was going to be easy too, because how could they not buy this thing? Because it's awesome.
It's right here, yeah.
I have learned a lot, Chris Wall. It is a very complicated. People just don't know.
Yeah,
people like me, I mean, who haven't been involved in the industry at all, don't know how miraculous it is that anything gets made.
Yeah,
it's just really so hard to make.
Even the stuff that seems really obvious. I mean, we talked to this before, but I was so struck with Margot Robbie, very popular actress, now producer, has her own production company, gets the rights to the Barbie movie, right? Oh, well, that's going to happen. I mean, it's Margot. It's a thing. They're going to make this thing. 6 years it took her to get that team together to finally go make
crazy.
it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. So for the rest of us, like, the fact that it took us only 6 years is like a miracle, right?
In
the grand scheme.
And that's just the stuff we've heard of. There's a zillion projects that somebody out there, blood, sweat, and tears tried to make happen that just didn't ever see the light of day for years and years of work. And so, it's just a lot. So we made the short film with the Kickstarter thing. You and I took some trips out to LA.
Yep. Lots of pitches to Amazon, lots of pitches to Netflix. And it was interesting after each one of those productions. Henson, that was fun.
Yeah, super fun.
Sir Paul McCartney was there that day.
I saw Sir Paul McCartney across the courtyard.
Nerded out big time.
And then I died.
And then got to go, I pitched at Apple. We got to go Paramount, DreamWorks, so of course, a lot of colleagues there. So we kind of hit everything. And at that time, it was, we love this, the fantasy element. Some of the faith elements we're not sure what to do with, right? And so we're like, no, but it's going to be this thing that's going to be really cool. Yeah, we know what Christian things are. Like, no, it's not going to be like that. And then artistically, it's a cool thing you've got going with this painterly kind of 2D CG thing, but everybody really wants the Pixar stuff. And so we were caught on both fronts, right? Like, love this. This is interesting. And so I remember really wrestling when Spider-Verse came out, and that changed that conversation. Right. Thank you very much. But I remember in this one, we wrestled quite a bit with, do we signal Christians making an animated series, or should we hide that, kind of tuck it away? Like, it's just a fantasy series. Yeah, there's some redemptive elements? Like even the language, do we use the word faith? Do we use the word redemption? Because I think for you and I as consumers, when we see Christian stuff, it's kind of like that. It can sometimes be a pass for you should watch it, but it's not very good. The craft isn't there. And we were like, no, I want it to be because the craft is great. Oh, and there's deeper meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've thumbed back through some of the little pitch decks and just trying to figure that out, which way to go. Your own career has had that same balance, though. How did you, the books, I mean, the first book came out in the Christian living section at bookstores, remember?
Was it really?
And
I don't remember that.
And,
so
and it
funny.
was just the madness of, no, it's a fantasy book. Yeah, but it's from Waterbrook, so it should be in Christian living.
Right, that's right.
And the Christian living people going like, what is this terrible stuff doing in here, right?
Is that a dragon? Yeah, I mean, Waterbrook at the time wasn't with Penguin. Now they're kind of owned by Penguin Random House, which is a big deal. And but yeah, I mean, at the time, I think it's one of those things where a lot of the people who work for the publishing company sometimes wish things like that could be different. But this is just kind of like, this is the structure that we're in.
Right.
And there's not a lot you can do about it other than try to just help authors make the best book they can and hope that it finds its way to the right people. Even with the kind of restrictions that they've got on where the book's going to end up at Barnes and Noble or whatever. So, you know, I felt some of that frustration. And I remember telling the publisher, you know, early on, with book one, I remember going out to Colorado Springs and meeting with Waterbrook, and they were great. My editor, Jeanette Thomason, was so kind to give a knucklehead like me a shot at trying to be an author. Sitting at a conference room with this publishing company, I mean, it was like being in a movie. I was like, I can't believe this is what real authors do, you know? Pitching them the story and kind of telling them what I wanted to do and just kind of warning them. I was like, this is going to get kind of dark, just so you know. Like, by the time we get to book two, like there's some super scary stuff coming. Are you guys okay with that? And they were all game. They were like, yeah, we're not afraid of that. Like they trusted, you know, who I was and what that would really mean. But it was still like a cool thing to me to see a Christian publisher go, yeah, we're going to put a fantasy novel in the world that doesn't have a Jesus character in it. Was cool and risky. And so, yeah, so that for that to become what it has become, where, you know, thanks to the books now kind of moving under the umbrella of Penguin Random House and Waterbrook, means that at Barnes & Noble, they're sitting on the shelf next to Harry Potter and Philip Pullman. I know because it's R's and P's and Captain Underpants, by the way, David Pilkey. So like, so when I go to the bookstore, I always, you know, I'll do these sneaky signings, you know, when I'm traveling and sign the books. I'm always scanning, you know, for the other letters. And I'm so pleased to see when these books have made their way onto the shelf there, on the merit of just being a story, a big adventure story that seems to work. Is so cool to me. When you were writing the story, did you ever feel the boundary lines of that? Did you feel the edges of, I'm getting a little too overt, or I'm straying from? I mean, how much, you know, awareness did you have? Yeah, I'm a pastor's kid, so I'm very, I have a lot of like anxiety about like, how do I put it? Like I'm very aware of like my behavior. Does that make sense? It doesn't mean that I behave well. It just means I'm aware of my behavior. And so like so I could turn on the Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver kind of like thing when I was in high school. But my heart was dark. Anyway, but I think some of the carryover of that is, I'm trying to write a new book right now, and I'm so conscious of Wingfeather readers and the trust that the parents have in me as a storyteller. That it's almost inhibiting because I don't want to I don't know if I would have written The Fork Factory in the book if because it's so scary, because I would have been so worried that it would have upset people because there's these scary elements. Does that make sense? Yeah. But at the time I was kind of like, I don't know if anybody's going to read these books. I'm just following the story to see where it goes and to trust God with the telling of the story. And so, yeah, I think I did wrestle with that a fair bit, especially as the books gained in popularity. By the time I got to book 4, and that's when the maker kind of shows up in a way that he hasn't yet. I was conscious of it, but also it was never meant to be, it was embedded in the story from the very beginning, like right out of the gate. I say, hey, there's a maker. Until very recently, the entire world assumed that there was one. So it's not weird in a fantasy world to make that assumption too. And the other cool thing, sorry, I'm kind of rambling about this, but like the new book that I'm working on is a real world book. It happens in our world, and I'm amazed at how hard it is to figure out theologically. Like if it was our world story with supernatural elements, the theology of that is really hard for me to get my head around. Like, how do I tell it in a story that, okay, so if there are, these creatures that live in this real world, how does that work theologically and from a world building standpoint? Whereas with Wingfeather, all bets are off. Like, I get to just invent this world, and I get to decide this is how God might interact with this world.
Which is similar to what Lewis was trying to get to with Narnia and even Tolkien.
Yeah. And so it felt a little easier to kind of just let it be organic.
Why do you think that people make that association? Because the most common association when they're talking about Wingfeather is like, oh, it's like a modern Narnia. What are the underpinning tenets inside of Wingfeather that people make that connection, both in the books and even in the animated series?
That is a good question. I think what people really just mean is it's a fantasy novel written by a Christian. I think that might be just the end of it. Like, because there's really not much like Narnia in Wingfeather.
Yeah, it's child protagonist, so just structurally, you go, okay, there's that happening.
But like Narnia starts out in England, that kind of thing. It's a portal story. And in my mind, it's closer to Lord of the Rings because I tried to do the world building. Obviously, nobody can do it like Tolkien did.
Sure.
I'm the junior high version of what Tolkien was doing. But like, I think that it falls more in that category. But those guys were just remarkable because they were deeply Christian.
Yep.
In their lives, but also in the way they wrote. And a friend of mine said that to me, like, yeah, your books aren't overtly Christian, they're deeply Christian. And I perked up when she said that because like that's getting at what it is that I really love in a story. Is because if I'm a follower of Jesus, then and I believe these things, then I don't have to try to put them in my story. I'm just going to tell a good story. And I'm preaching to myself right now about my new book too. So anyway, I just think that the idea of being deeply Christian instead of overtly Christian is what I think it maybe I'm going to speak, assuming that's part of what attracted you to this thing.
Yeah. As much as I loved, VeggieTales, I loved our stories. Even then we were trying to find ways to make the story live and breathe and not have really heavy-handed tilt to some message. Let the characters have opinions and act out in the world and behave in certain ways that feel real, right? That authenticity really resonates with me. And that's the thing that, as I read Wingfeather, was like, oh, these characters these are real choices. This is a real consequence. Very exciting. I have also gotten the backlash with the animated series in particular of why waste your time with fairy tale stories when you could be doing Pilgrim's Progress. You could be doing things that have direct kingdom result. Right? That the harvest is white. Why aren't you out there preaching the gospel? And of course, I fundamentally believe I'm in a different field. Like I'm plowing this field of just deeply redemptive work that hopefully has an effect in someone's life. But I don't want to be a part of prescriptively saying what that is, right? But I want to be a part of helping to tell this story in this way. How do you respond to that? Like when you were setting out, you chose to write a fantasy story. Why didn't you write something that was more useful to the church, right? That could have been in Christian living.
Useful is it's a loaded word, isn't it? I think it's a matter of calling, honestly. Like, I don't think it's bad to write a fantasy novel that's more overt. I mean, Lewis pulled it off. But I just think it's a matter of calling. Some people are wired to do one thing and other people are wired to do something else. Like, I have friends in town who I go to church with who sing mainstream music. They're singing love songs and whatever, and they're doing it thoughtfully, and they're a member of a local church. And I don't think it's bad to do that. I think that they're being obedient to Jesus in that calling, and I think that's wonderful, especially if they're connected to a local church and they're doing it intentionally, and they're like, no, this is the way that I'm going to do this. Not like they're blindly just out there saying, well, I'm not going to write Christian music. I think that there's a thoughtful way to responsibly do that, to engage the world in those ways. And so that's what I think about Wingfeather, I just was like, yeah, I don't feel called to tell a story that's, I don't know, either Little House on the Prairie, like Frontier Tales or whatever. Like,
Right, sure.
Because of the way that God wired me, my imagination lit up when I thought, I want to tell a story with dragons. And I want to see what happens when I get these kids in this situation in this world and follow these children in a way that like, well, I mean, it's kind of like, we both talked about this, but when Lewis and Tolkien started writing their stories, it was partly because they loved these stories and they couldn't find enough of them, right? They were kind of like, this is the stuff that we love. Nobody's doing it. I guess we'll have to write it.
To make it, yeah.
So I kind of felt the same way. I was like, we grew up in the 1980s with a lot of the same kind of Spielberg stories in our DNA.
Yep.
And then to find ourselves with children and looking around and going, where are the stories that feel like that? And especially stories that where we could trust the storyteller. And so I think that was part of what we both liked about this idea.
What was your first way into the story? Like when you first imagined, was it the place, Aerwiar? Was it the characters?
It started out with characters, and then the characters were, the story kept running into walls because the characters didn't have a world to live in yet. And so I kept getting stuck. And I was like, how do you write a story? I'd never tried writing a big, long story before. But I realized one day that I didn't know enough about the world for them to do the simplest things. So the example I always use is Janner and Tink and Leeli go to Dragon Day Festival and the opening scene of book 1. And I didn't know what kind of money they used to buy the sugarberry buns with. And I was like, oh, wait, I have to, I mean, something that simple and tactile kind of comes loaded with a bunch of questions about, okay, how does money work there? Who prints the money? Is it a mint? And how does that asks questions about the technology that they have. Is it steam engines? Is it gunpowder? And then the government, whose face is on the coin? So all of those questions just stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, I can't tell this story unless I know something about the world they're living in. And that was when it started with a map. And that kind of was the gas.
Okay, so you did start to do some writing before the map. I wasn't sure how far you got into it. But
I'd written a lot actually. But just kept getting stuck. I remember this. I haven't told many people this, but I have one of the early versions of the book opens with Janner and Ood on prisoners on a ship that is sinking, and they're trying to escape this ship, and Ood saves Janner. It was like, I don't know where that was coming from. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know where the ship was sailing to, but I had this picture of a boy and a troll who were friends, who were both in trouble, and they needed each other. And his name was Janner. And I don't know. That was but then I kept getting stuck. I didn't know enough. I was like, why is there a troll on a ship and blah, blah, blah. And so that was one of the early attempts. And then finally it was like, this doesn't work unless you know the world.
Obviously that gave us the incredible blueprint to be able to build into a visual version, right? In the animated series. And I remember we talked about this quite a bit at the beginning, that like, wow, the cohesion in the world is just ripe for us to go find ways to visualize. And there's, of course, by this time, the whole journey's been told. So we can also see the whole thing and go, this thing that's so important here comes all the way back to here. So we can do this little planting of a seed that we know is going to sprout here. And then,
I love
amazing
that
harvest,
stuff.
which is a blast, right?
Yep.
And I feel so lucky to be a part of that.
Man, too.
With you having to feel the way forward, like, oh, I know where it goes, right?
Yeah, like any TV show that doesn't know where it's going is a giant risk. I want to know that the ending is worth it.
Yeah.
And I think that happened with the books. A lot of times people, the sales of the books went up pretty sharply once I was finished. Because I think a lot of people were waiting to see if it was going to be worth their time to read these stories. Is the ending worth it? And I think the ending is worth it. I've heard from people that it is. And that's part of why I'm like, we got to get to season 7.
Yeah, we got to go all the way through. Yeah.
We've got to get to the ending. I cannot wait.
So we're about to get season 3. We're, as we record this, pretty close to it. Season 3, I remember It's in the end of book 2, but that being a moment in the reading of the books where like the world just got really big and lots of things were like, oh, we're doing big scale warfare, you know, we're Helm's Deep kind of moments. And now it's gonna, of course, in season 4 and book 3, there it just opens even more new lands, new people, all kinds of new things happening. I think that was a piece that I remember reading Lord of the Rings and feeling like, are we ever going to leave the Elf Kingdom? Right. And then finally, Riders over Hiram. Okay, now we're wait, now we're going to go to Helm's. You know, like you just kind of, the land experiences are one of the things that I got really excited about and coming alongside to tell the story was like, it's a traveling show.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get tired of. Now it turns out in animation production, it's turned out to be quite costly. Because like we were talking
about reuse stuff.
Yeah, season 4, we're like, all those characters are gone.
Yeah, that's right.
All these characters are new, and these characters have to be here through the end.
Right.
So it's been an interesting little twist. But what are you most excited about now for season 3? Like we're on the cusp of it.
Yeah.
You know, you've had the audience experience 1 and 2, which is book 1 and most of book 2. What are you kind of in the author seat and knowing this as the EP?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. I think that it's. I've said this to quite a few people. I was like, you know, when you have somebody tells you got to watch this series, hold on until season 3, and that's when they really find their legs, and that's where they're figured out. I think that's kind of happened. I mean, I felt that way. I felt like season 1 was this magical, miraculous thing that we made, and then I saw season 2, and I was like, oh my goodness, the team has gotten so much better, and I think that happened again with this season. So I think from a visual standpoint, it's just kind of mind-blowing. We just watched the first 4 episodes because we were recording the DVD commentary, and it was the first time I'd sat and watched the new stuff in a row like that. And I just was like, how is this real? I can't believe this show is happening. So it just looks gorgeous. The acting's getting better and better. The directing, I mean, you're just helming the ship in a way that's really letting everybody shine at what it is that they do really well.
I love that. Thank you. And as producer, it's my favorite thing is to try to get people in the best environment to just do incredible work, right?
Yeah.
Going the right direction. And I think what's lovely about having the books in front of us is we can all go, that's the way we need to go creatively. That's the way we need to go in the storytelling devices. And just if we hit that, just trust the story, trust the books.
Yeah.
And let our version of it follow that form. And see what happens.
I mean, it's easy to say episode 4 is what I'm excited for people to see because it is massive.
Yeah.
Is it bad to say, well, like what happens in episode 4?
No, you can go ahead.
It's the Battle of Chimera.
Yeah.
For you readers out there. It's pretty amazing. But then honestly, there's so many big moments that happen. Like I was talking to somebody about how, like, you know, the first 3/4 of book 2 of Northrop Be Eaten are in season 2.
Yeah.
And it's just like this whole season is happening in the very back. So there is so much that happens in that section of the books.
Yeah.
Like so many little Easter eggs are kind of cracked open, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, here's the big reveal. And so, I've talked to quite a few people. I was thinking about Ellie Holcomb, who plays Pharenia and is also a wonderful songwriter and a dear friend. Can we say about the song, or should we wait?
We can talk about the song.
I'm just never sure when to announce things. So when I met Ellie Holcomb, and if you guys out there don't know Ellie's music, you should, because she's great. But I was Ben Shive, who produced most of my music, was working on her, I think, first solo record, and I had to get something from the studio, so I just went by the studio and popped in. I don't think I even knew Ellie was going to be there. I'd met her one time, and Ellie was there, and I stood in the back and listened to her singing the vocal of a song called Marvelous Light. And I was like, wow, what a beautiful song. And then her take ended. She walks out of the studio, and we were talking, and she was just like, I wrote this song about Poto. I was like, what? And I couldn't believe that she'd even read the books, period. But she was like, I finished Northrop Be Eaten, and I got to the line where it says that Poto walked through his days in joy and wonder, because for the first time his whole story had been told, and he found that he was still loved. And she quoted that to me, and I was like crying. I was like, I can't believe it. And she was just like, I just was so moved by that, by Northrop Be Eaten. So the point is, I feel like book 1 is kind of preamble almost to get you to Northrop Be Eaten. It's like that's the the clicking of the roller coaster,
Mm-hmm.
and the end of Northern Eden is the top. And
Yeah.
like we're off to the races.
And here
Does
we
that
go.
make sense?
Absolutely.
And so one other fun thing is that we asked Ellie to sing Marvelous Light, a special version, like a cinematic version of Marvelous Light, to be the credit song for the end of this season, which is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So the way those threads have come together with Henry Ian Cusick doing Pete the Sock Man, all these little fun little things that have happened are just marvelous. So anyway.
And some of what you said there too, I think is really notable, which is that season 2 was better than season 1. Season 3, I would agree, is better than I love all of them.
Yeah,
right?
me too.
But, some of that is because the choice that we made, which was let's make an animation studio. Let's get Keith Lango, let's get Brock, and let's make a studio, because the inherent relationship is artists all pulling in one direction. For the years that I produced VeggieTales, it was outsourced to different studios. And inherently you have a contractual relationship of tension. They're trying to protect their profit margin and get it done for as efficiently as possible. And you're trying to get the best product you can. And you're inherently on opposite sides. When you're all one studio, you're all pulling the same direction. Yeah. You want the best thing. And so our team, which we're going to get to talk to over these weeks, is going to do that for us, right? Say, like, here's why I pull hard on this story. And I was, and many of them have come because they're like, I love the story and I could choose to go do this story over here, but I want to be a part of this one. Yeah. And in the different ways that I contribute technically or painfully writing and all the pieces, I want to help pull in that way. And that's made for this incredible experience where each season is getting more into it, right? Because people are finding ways to unlock and tell the story even better. It's funny. I like the battle. I think it's pretty great. I was far more impacted in reading the book, and so I was thrilled that we were able to portray this in some of the inner workings with Nia and the kids and what they're feeling about the fact that Kalmar is gone, right? That he's gone away, and how do we deal with that? And I think as an older brother and my siblings having different journeys and feeling those pains of like, how do I connect with my siblings? How do I keep them in our fold, when life comes? That was such deeply resonating with me. So I think that arc of season 3 and where it finds its pieces, I think through Nia and through Jenna, of course, but for me is the most rewarding. Yeah. And Poto's journey is fantastic, to be clear. I'm just deeper connected to what Jenna and Nia are experiencing.
One thing I would add to that, like the developing Nia's internal life while she's dealing with her missing son, is stuff that doesn't get a lot of attention in the books. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of when you're writing a book, you're doing your best. And then it's not until we're in this room with the story team that they go, what's going on with Nia? Yeah. And you kind of go, yeah, you're right. We need to tease that out. Same thing with Kalmar. Like I think Pete said, basically, we really need to make sure that we have properly sold the idea that Kalmar would actually make the decision he's going to make. Yep. And so as the author, to actually get to see on the screen some visual representation of the story that's going on in that poor kid's heart is so moving to me. So I can't wait for people to see that too.
You had some beautiful prose in the book that told us about what he was experiencing. And so for us, it's like, how do we externalize that so we can really see the choice of a kid that it's a weird thing in any live action animation when it's a real thing in front of you. That's a character, that's a person, it's a voice, it's a being that I know. And you watch them make a choice. It hits different. Then you read about it and your imagination is flooded with what the author's telling you about that character. And it begged for, we've got to tell that. And I have to say, I think one of the most delightful things about this whole journey so far, 4 years in, is your just generosity to say, yeah, go explore that story with Nia. Go explore Kalmar's story. Nope, sorry guys, page 37, I wrote it a certain way. Right? Could have been your choice, right?
And that happens sometimes.
Yeah, there are some things, yeah. Well, the funny, like you said a minute ago, I just did this last week. We were working on one of the late episodes in season 3, and I was like, hang on, let me see if there's how that unpacks in the book. And it's literally was 2 facing pages for a whole episode.
I mean, that's the thing is, like, we've talked about that before, that living in Nashville as a singer-songwriter, touring singer-songwriter, collaboration is a huge part of my job. And I really just think I've been lucky enough to work with people who are way better than me at certain things. And like, that's what you want in a band.
Sure.
You're like, I know my job, but I don't know how to play the drums. I need Brandon to play the drums because he's awesome at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, same thing with this. I don't know how to make a TV show. You do. and you're very generous to me to let me kind of like ride along and keep my voice in the room. I tell people that I get to be in the room and raise my hand sometimes, you know, and that's I don't know how to write a screenplay, but I do get to like read the things, and every now and then I'll be like, hey, this isn't working. We gotta fix this.
Okay, so when do we go at odds together? When is it really hard? And I'm thinking about this. Is something fans ask a lot. All right, so tell us the good stuff.
Yeah,
like when are the fights?
A fight that we got in,
right? The best one we've had.
Was it about the song? Is that what yeah.
Song of Ancient Stones, and you just kept saying the same thing. Like, no, it's like this. It's like this. What are you talking about? And the writers, we were all just like, what is Andrew saying? I don't get it. So we had you come in the office so we could look and like. Tell me again.
We had this like pretty tense conference room.
What are you trying to get? Because I can't, like we were just befuddled. And you finally like said it a certain way and went, oh, okay. No, that makes so we got to rethink. And like, it was just like this epiphanal thing. I think what's just really delightful about us, because I think there's times when it's like, is this too violent, you know, or is this too, grown up, or is this too childish, or is this too silly? Is, you know, kind of those temperatures. We generally are like, I mean, you're way more permissive with violence than I am.
Oh, wow.
Like I'll be like, good Lord, that's violent. Like,
I have made some notes though.
There are some.
Yeah,
like
I've been kind of like,
one
ooh, I don't
Khmer
know.
soldier. That was, we both went, too much. Way to go, animation. Also, you know, we
So
just
funny.
had a render the other day, and it turns out this is funny, but there's because of the crowd systems we have, where some of the battle happens somewhat because of the computer telling them to do that kind of thing. They take base actions, whatever. There was this shot of Nia. She's gotten knocked to the ground in the battle, and she's looking after, like, oh no, and right there in front of her POV is this Khmeran.
They're just staring at her,
like, I guess dead, you know, laying there on the ground.
Oh my goodness,
like that is awful. And so the team's like, don't worry about it, re-render, and it just repopulates differently, I guess. And I was like, okay, yeah, don't do that. That's terrible.
That's so funny.
So I think there's areas where we disagree, but we generally work through them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is too happy, this is too sad. This is blah, blah, blah. I will say I tend to be more descriptive. So I tend to bias towards, I think about that 8-year-old or maybe 10-year-old who, wait, what's going on? And I want the characters to say, but what will happen around the next corner? You know, and you're like, don't say it. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
I'm like,
they don't need to know. They don't need to be told everything that's happening.
So
right
this
now.
is where we have tension. And this is, you want all of it? Here it is. So Andrew will put a note in the script. I don't like this dialogue. Take this out. And it'll come back to me. The team knows. It goes to me first. And I go, yeah, we're still going to record it. And we're going to see if we still like it. And so we'll put it in Scratch. And then we'll put it in, and then you'll call it out. And I'll be like, all right, I'll give you half of it. You know, and there's this negotiation.
There have been times, this is insightful, you guys, because there have been times when I'll be watching the show and I'll hear a line, I'll be like, I remember making a note about that line, and somehow it made it in here anyway. Yeah.
Sometimes, though, I will say,
this is when Chris and I got in a fight on camera. Just kidding.
I have been able to redeem some of these because the performance of the actor.
Yeah.
Right? That, like, on paper, I'm like, that doesn't, but let's try it. And then the actor does something with it. You're like, well, actually, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Right? Or, woof, that was like earlier today, we recorded some stuff with Oscar.
Right.
And in Scratch, even, I think we read it and it was fine. But then when we got it in the booth today, it was like, nah, this isn't working.
Doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Which you and I are totally aligned on that. Like, once it's in the booth, if we hear it, if someone's over dramatic or they're too silly or they're whatever, you and I both tend to go, that ain't right.
Yeah.
Which is great, because I've definitely been a part of other creative ventures like this where we're not on the same page, where someone wants that kind of more that way. And you're like, that's a problem because I don't like that at all. Right.
Yeah. Most of what I'm doing is cutting not a whole line, but a chunk of the line. Most of the time it's like, we don't need the second half of this. Like, there's enough going on right there. And I think that's just a matter of, I mean, the screenwriters are awesome. The people who are writing for this stuff, they're so good at this, and they're wrangling this big story in.
I'm so glad I convinced you to play that character.
Sometimes I'm not sure that I'm glad.
Oh my gosh.
I break out into a sweat every time. So you guys listening, like, there are professional actors, like, I mean, some big deal actors are involved in this show. And I've been amazed at how pro they are and humble and funny and willing to do this stuff. But one of the things that I watch is like when you're a professional actor, you are used to doing take after take after take. You're unself-conscious. You're out there. I remember reading with Ted Danson or something said being an actor means being embarrassed. He was like, because you're up in front of everybody and you fail 90% of the time, and then they'll get one take that they like. You know what I mean? But they train for this, Chris. They go to school for it, Chris. And so Chris talked me into doing this Oscar voice, and I am uncomfortable and sweating. Like I fold my arms. I realize while I'm doing the takes that my hands are clenched in front of my chest because I'm so nervous while I'm doing these voices, mainly because I'm just like, the take that I just did is the very best that I have. And then Chris and Ned and the other team will be like, hey, try it this way. And then I'm like, yep, you were right. There was another way of doing it, but that was better. And meanwhile, I'm sweat stains on my armpits because I'm so nervous. All that to say, it's really fun when I see the finished product. But I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun.
I think you can start to disembody. I hope you can disembody and see Oscar and this voice that comes out of him is like, oh, there's a character.
It doesn't feel like me anymore. And it also makes me really amazed by actors.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Really quick, just because I'm, as a fanboy, I don't. I think sometimes it would be easy for you to forget how cool this stuff is because you're in it all the time. But like right outside this room is the studio, and there are how many people?
About a dozen.
About a dozen people. Each of them has a workstation, and they're all working. Like quick flyover. What is each one of them doing
right now? Like if I walk out there, well, they're getting ready for the end of the day. But if I walk out there right now, they are getting assignments out to animators, right? So our team of animators all over the world. So Bo's doing that right now. We've got, I know they're really working hard to get 304 ready because they're going to do a screening at Angel tomorrow
That's
night.
right. Yeah.
And so they're working on that. They just gave me a trim thing that we looked at, a little nip and tuck that we thought that kind of helps the pace of that scene.
Yep.
So Marinea is working on getting that out the door. Grace is working on getting notes for 407, and we're doing 406 assignments out to the story team right now.
Yep. So that means Season 4, Episode 7.
Yeah. Yep.
When he says 407. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Daniel is working really hard with the layout team in Season 4, getting that done, as well as assembly team. So
layout
meaning, so first round of what it looks like digitally in the computer, characters move around with just kind of stiff poses.
Yep.
And so 401,
like blocking.
First time in our history of our studio, we're in production on 2 seasons at once.
Right.
That happened about 3 weeks ago. He's also looking at assembly from episode 5. So final footage coming out of episode 5. We had some watch of that.
Episode 5 of season 4.
3.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. We've got Ellie and Chris are working on Bannerona, the town, getting it all mapped out. And we're going to use some really
I've seen
cool
early stuff of that. I want to see that.
They got this new Unreal tech that can make the buildings for us in ways that are like incredible. So that's going to be cool because we have a big chase sequence in Bannerona we have to solve for. And then we've got, let's see who else in that table, moving around the table. Oh, Steven, he's our CG guy, making sure that all the assets are here. So every one of if I have a thing, this has to be made, textured, rigged, so they know how to use it, right? And they connect it. So Steven is making sure those assets are ready in season 3 is all done as far as assets, usually. On occasion, an actor will walk into a room, meaning an animator, and go, hey, where's my cup? Oh, we forgot to get a cup.
We forgot to make a cup. That's so funny.
Right? Just like this weird, like that trophy came a little late, right? In season 4 saying like, oh, by the way, we need a trophy. Oh, we forgot the trophy, right? Someone could quickly design a trophy, get it sculpted, get it textured, get it rigged, Good grief. So that's Steven sitting in there working on that. And then I know Chris is working really hard on some R&D for underwater water. So one of the challenges in episode 5 is there's some underwater water.
So shots that are happening
topside
underwater.
Water is looking awesome. Underwater is a little. It's not working yet. You got to get it to look cool and storybook, right?
Yep.
And you can make it look photoreal, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah. So that's kind of around the horn there, and then Brock's in there right now. I'm sure working on some other marketing plan, some merchandising plan. How do we expand for the audience to be able to engage? And he, day in, day out, dealing with all that world.
Amazing. This is why, like, if you ever work in any kind of film or television like this, it changes the way you watch a show or watch a movie. And like, I'm way more forgiving now than I used to be.
Because you know somebody
Because I'm like, somebody worked so hard on this movie. And if this little thing didn't work, like, I'm going to give them a pass. Because what they were trying to do was awesome.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so we have guys like Josiah and Seth. One of the things about animation that is just incredible. So Josiah is working on all of our renders, right? So all the final footage and rendering it, looking at it, going, that's broken, and will fix it himself, right? Or Seth, his other TD, and then go, we're having to fix that quite a few times. I'm going to write a tool so that it automates and fixes itself, and we don't have to keep tripping on that.
Wow, that's cool.
Right? So it's not just using a tool and saying, yeah, your hammer's broken. It's like, I made you a new hammer, right? And so that keeps happening. It's such a technological environment that there's all these technical solves that are like, I mean, nerd that I don't understand. Like, it's a level of like code writing that I'm like, wow, that's cool, that helps us to make art.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Crazy.
So, yeah.
What a thing. And all of this is so that we can watch season 3.
It is. I came to the lobby just a couple days ago, and it was an awkward thing. There was a chair involved for the phone. And I was like, oh, hey, sorry. And it was Steven, who's our CG asset guy, but he's like, hey, can I do some animation? And he's really good. So he's been animating. Oh, cool. Simultaneously. If I have some free cycles, I'm going to go animate. And he was filming himself in the lobby here, acting it out. So a lot of animators will act it out first.
Yep.
And I was like, get on you, man.
That's great. It's an amazing team.
It's such a good
team.
I'm
excited for people to get to meet them.
We are about to mix another episode 5.
And then we'll often have the composer, right?
Yep, Ben's in there. Yep.
Ben's in there listening for score stuff. And then Garrett, our director,
will drop in.
Who's looking for visual stuff, but also story stuff.
Keith will drop in when he's available.
So we're all watching the most recent version of the thing with sound and everything. And it's my favorite day of the whole process. Because it's like...
And right now, we're episode 5 is about to get mixed. And you and I are really working hard with Ben and Adam to find... what do sea dragons sound like when they sing?
Yep. Not in the heads of the Wingfeather kids, but what does it sound like to someone like Podo, who can't hear the magic kind of part of it?
We kind of ducked that in season 1, episode 1, right? In Dragon Day Festival. And so now we have to commit to it. And it's like, it's been a journey to find that out. Like, what is that sound? Is it Dory?
Right.
What is that? So that's been
what does a dying dragon sound like?
What is a dying dragon who's grieving and loss? And there's a lot of levels. Absolutely. So that's happening. Simultaneous, like I said, we recorded season 4 with you, simultaneously to reviewing outlines, and we'll have a script draft here shortly from season 5. So it's reading outlines, it's reviewing. You did give lots of notes for us to think about and the team to work off of, having an opinion about animation. Right, watching it's really fun. We watch all the animation dailies coming through and make
things like, for example, big climactic scene at the end of book 2, season 3, Leeli standing in front of the sea dragon.
Yep.
Down to like the expression on her face.
Yep.
I was like, ooh, it doesn't.
I know it's such a good
note.
note.
What she would be doing there. And the cool thing is the animators can make it. They can go in there and fix it and make it. So it's like down to that level of nitpicking, like at this point.
Well, we just talked about that one today, that she plays this song, right? It's a very important song on board and in the animation, it's just beautiful, but they're like, I need to see the book. And she holds the book in front. And in the performance, she plays her whistle harp and closes her eyes. And
Which is very understandable.
Totally works, but you're like, we just asked to put the book in front of her so she could see the sheet music, and then she closed her eyes. Can we get her eyes open? Oh, yeah, we should do that, right? Like, it's that kind of minutia.
Like 1,000 of those little things is what it's like.
And I think what's interesting is the reason we talk so much about how complicated this is because that's every day it's another couple hundred, right? It's not that you don't do with thousands of them in one day. It's just layers and layers, and it's those little sand thingies where you pour a little bit of sand each time, and then it just keeps building up in these layers. Which is also why working with Andrew Peterson is so great, because if you've ever seen one of those like sand things, they put the colors together, if you have to go down and change something, it's so destructive to go backwards in time and go really deep.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Andrew is so collaborative to usually catch it as we're going, and we get to look at it together.
I had to learn that the first time around.
Can we move this back here? Like, we can, but
every change has a little price tag attached to it. And like the older the change is, the more embedded it is, the bigger the price tag. And I think in season 1, I just wasn't. I was like, I've never done this before.
Yeah.
I don't know when is the right time to raise my hand. And so this time, by now, I'm trying to be pretty quick about it.
Our crew is amazing too, because some of the feedback you give is like, okay, that would blow us up, but what if we did this and we do our Jenga move, right? We slide the block out, slide it back in, right? And
it's amazing.
Made it.
Yeah.
Nobody got hurt, right?
I love how little I actually know about that side of it.
Yeah.
Keep not telling me
we
that.
don't want to tell
me
you.
that.
No, it's really important. So
one
of the things that we have as an independent studio is we don't have a studio lording over us, right? Executives somewhere watching our show and saying, it needs to be more like this or less like this. We get to just make the show that we think all of our fans would love to have. But we need back tension. I have to have someone at the end of the rope. And so intentionally create milestones so that you're not in every minutia, because then you get too familiar. I'm way too familiar with everything. I know what it costs to do different things. I don't want you to know, so that you can objectively look at it and say, Leeli's expression here is not the right direction for what emotionally we're doing in this moment. Oh, gosh, spot on. Let's get that right.
That makes sense.
Where I remember watching, because I watched that clip before you did, and I was like, wow, the dragon, the herd, this is such a big moment. Way to go, team. Way to pull it off. That was really hard. The camera, like all the stuff. And you were, by the way, the expression's wrong. Oh, yeah, there's that.
And everybody does that. Everybody brings something like that to it. We're all watching different things, So yeah, that's what personally, we have a Slack channel, and every morning I just look at Slack and usually there's some, hey, we need you to do this by Friday. And it's a lot of reviewing one of the season outlines or scripts or the shots.
Or a prop or a character.
Yep. Saying like the get the boot. Like the trophy for getting the boot was one of the ones that we just had to approve. It's so funny to me. I was just like, I can't believe this is my job.
Variations on puppy designs.
Yeah. This whole process has been so fun and fascinating. But I've thought sometimes about how kind God is, that when I was a kid, I wanted to make movies just as much as I wanted to make songs, and draw pictures and write books. I was doing all that stuff when I was in high school. And then I realized, at the end of high school, that I don't think I'm good enough of an artist to make a career as an animator or a comic book guy. And also, I don't think I'm good enough at filmmaking to make a career of this, blah, blah, blah. And I went and did music, and then the books came out. And then in the most hilarious way, God has said, hey, I'm going to let you be in the room while they're making this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get to be a fanboy of you and of the team here, and kind of like walk in without really knowing how this stuff works, but just with total delight at watching people do amazing work. And then, of course, the bonus that it's like my story. I can't believe it. Like, it's a dream come true. So thanks for making it happen.
Gosh, so glad to walk this with you, man. Well, thanks for joining me today and my special guest, Andrew Peterson. To watch the series, of course, check out wingfeathersaga.com and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, at Wingfeather Saga. Make sure to check out the program wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. This has been a Shining Isle production produced by Jaron Weatherly, executive produced by myself, Brock Starnes, and Andrew Peterson.